Check in with Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com. We'll get to the injuries, but I saw what Mike was writing about. Rex Media making a mountain out of a molehill on quarterback decision. What I thought was interesting about this, as Mike joins us, it sounds like Rex Ryan is admitting he's not in charge anymore. So almost saying, I've been a lame duck, or, the decision's not coming down to my word here. It's a collective effort here, and he's sort of taking the blame off himself of benching Mark Sanchez last year. What did you take away from those Rex comments, Mike?
Well, my first reaction, Dan, was a year ago all the Jets wanted was attention, and now they really would prefer that everyone look away and no one can stop paying attention. Anytime you have a quarterback controversy in this day and age, it's a big deal, especially in training camp. Somebody's going to win the job, somebody's going to get benched. But you're right, there are more and more indications that Rex Ryan has no control over his situation, no control over his job, no control over his life. He has no idea what he's going to have to do to keep his job beyond this season. He knows, and he said this over the weekend, if the Jets are in position to draft Jadeveon Clowney next year, he won't be back. But where is that line? What is it that divides Rex Ryan from keeping his job and losing his job? And I think the pressure's already starting to get to him.
Who's going to make this decision then on Mark Sanchez? Who's going to start for the Jets, I should say?
Well, I think it will be a collaborative decision, and ideally they'd like to have consensus, because if the guy who wins the job ends up stinking, you don't want a bunch of reports that other people in the organization were against the decision that Woody Johnson or John Idzik or someone else made. When you use a second-round pick, a high second-round pick on a quarterback, you're not drafting that guy to be your number two player for an extended period of time. The goal is to groom him and get him ready to play. And with Sanchez's contract, I can't imagine him being with the Jets for more than 1 year anyway, unless all of a sudden he becomes a much better quarterback than what we've seen. So I think if they can get Smith ready, I think John Idzik is going to make it pretty clear to Rex, hey, let's go with the young guy, and that'll be a factor in the decisions that are made at the end of the year. If we end up 6-10, 5-11, or whatever, but we're showing some improvement toward the end of the year, then maybe we continue. And that's important for the young quarterback, too. You don't want to get into the habit of changing coaching staffs, changing offensive schemes. If Rex and Marty Mornhinweg, the offensive coordinator, can show that they can start to get high production out of Geno Smith, that'll be a very big reason to keep Rex around.
Give me the teams that have worse skill position players than the Jets.
Well, yeah, there really aren't many when you think about it, especially because Santonio Holmes may not play in September. Who knows when he's going to be healthy? They went out and signed Braylon Edwards for the third time over the weekend. At running back, no one knows who's going to step up. Chris Ivory, the odd man out in New Orleans, could end up being the starter for the Jets. Tight end Dustin Keller's gone. They're relying on Kellen Winslow, who was mostly out of the league last year. So not a whole lot of help for whoever the quarterback is, and everybody's trying to learn this West Coast offense. I mean, the schedule isn't all that unfavorable for the Jets, so maybe they won't be like 2-14, but it just doesn't look like it's going to be a very good team on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, missing out on Austin, getting him when the Rams swooped in and picked him up. I thought that was a devastating blow to the Jets. Talking to Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com, also the NBC Sports Network. All right, let's look at the injuries. I think the Dennis Pitta injury is huge because I just think, with the Ravens, with Anquan Bolden gone, that's Flacco's best buddy, and it seemed like he had emerged in the playoffs. Your thoughts on Pitta's injury, how that affects the Ravens?
Dan, I agree with you completely. With all of the losses that the Ravens had in the offseason, the only one that really troubled me was Anquan Bolden, because Joe Flacco needs that guy who he can just throw it close to. Back foot, someone in his face, just throw it close to Anquan Bolden, and he goes and gets it. That's what Pitta was going to be, and now Pitta is gone, and you look at that roster, and other than Torrey Smith, who is a very good receiver, stretches of the field, which is a good thing. You need that. You need a guy who you can rely on deep. But who's going to take advantage of all the openings underneath? Which receivers are going to step up? Which tight ends are going to step up? And now it's going to be a lot harder for Joe Flacco to earn that $20 million a year without Dennis Pitta. So the Ravens now, I think, have reason to be concerned. Before Pitta's injury, I think it was overblown, but now there really is reason to be worried about how this offense is going to produce.
And what about Macklin's injury, how that affects Chip Kelly's offense?
Well, I think about this. Chip Kelly has no prior NFL connection of any kind at any level at any time. So unlike an NFL assistant coach who goes from team to team and works his way up, Kelly doesn't have a network of guys out there, free agents that he's aware of, guys who know his system. There aren't many guys who know his system at the NFL level. So now with Macklin out, you just have to push everyone up a level and hope that the guys who have been there throughout the off-season program can perform when they need to, because it's not like you can bring in a veteran and say, okay, here you go. We do things faster. Here's how we do it. We want you to do it our way. And they're going to try to learn it on the fly. It's going to be like trying to change a tire on a moving car. So it's going to put Kelly in a tough position. It's going to require these other young guys to step up and fill the void created by Macklin, who, he was in a contract year. They expected big things out of him, and now he's done.
The injury with Dan Copen, the center for Peyton Manning. Any chance Jeff Saturday would come out of retirement?
Well, there's been some talk about it. Now, I don't know how much weight he's lost since he retired. Matt Burke has already dropped like more than 50 pounds. So sometimes these guys get themselves in position where they couldn't play if they wanted to.
How do you lose 50 pounds like that?
Well, when you're like 320 or something, and you're eating everything you can to stay at that level, if you just close the faucet a little bit, the weight I think would fall right off. But if you see Matt Burke, you wouldn't recognize him. He has lost that much weight that quickly. Now Saturday, he really wasn't great last year for the Packers. They benched him down the stretch. He still made it to the Pro Bowl based on reputation. But if I'm Peyton Manning and they're finding whoever they can on the street right now to come in and shore up the middle of the line, and I'm worried about a guy getting thrown into my ankles on every snap, I want Jeff Saturday there, because at least he's got the savvy to get help in place if you see guys loading up those gaps on each side of the center. So that's a real problem. They paid a lot of money to protect Peyton's blind side by signing Ryan Clady, and now they have to worry about weaknesses right up the middle.
I know you talk to NFL front office types. The whole Johnny Manziel situation, and everybody keeps saying, every time I bring it up, is let him play a game, and then you can assess. Don't assess his character. Don't assess. He's acting like a college kid. I keep telling people he's not a normal 20-year-old college kid, because normal 20-year-old college kids don't get to do what he does. Now, the one thing I'm interested in is, does any of this stuff matter? Let's say he wins games, plays great, and then he'll go into the draft next year. Any of this off-the-field stuff concern any of these front office guys?
Oh, it has to. If you're going to use a first-round pick on a quarterback, you are presuming that he's going to become a franchise quarterback.
You think he's a first-round quarterback?
I don't know. I don't know enough.
I think based on reputation, maybe, Mike. But
I don't know, and that's the thing. You've got two issues here. You've got ability, and then you've got all the off-field stuff that is going to influence what kind of a contributor he is, what kind of a leader he is, how much he helps his teammates rise up. Is he going to be a distraction, or is he going to be a galvanizing force? Now, he was good enough last year to win the Heisman. One of the knocks is his height. Well, that hasn't held back Russell Wilson or Drew Brees. But if the thinking is this guy can be a successful NFL quarterback based on ability, then you have to assess the human being, because quarterback's the most important position in the locker room. As the quarterback goes, in many respects, that's how the team goes. And I agree with your point on, this whole idea of being a normal 20-year-old. He's not a normal 20-year-old. And you've got to adjust your behavior accordingly, or people are going to look at you and say, how can I trust to give you a lot of money, to put you in the spotlight, if you're going to act this way when you're in the NFL? The days of Bobby Lane and Joe Namath are long gone. You just don't see quarterbacks act that way anymore, especially with everybody carrying around a video device where they can record everything you say and everything you do.
Imagine if we had that when Favre was at Southern Miss.
He would have been back in Mississippi by 1995.
Good to visit with you, Mike. Thanks for joining us.
All right, see you, pal.
Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com, also the NBC Sports Network.